I've loved Star Trek for such a long time now, but the past few shows have been awful. Star Trek Discovery was such a bad show, the worst of them all, in fact. Then you had Picard that was just boring and didn't feel like Star Trek, and with Strange New Worlds, we were all hopeful they'd take these characters and write a decent story around them that stuck to the previous material, but they've already, with one single episode, dated this show because Star Trek Strange New Worlds depicts January 6th riots as being the first steps to World War III. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon for just $1 a month, or support the channel via YouTube memberships. All of the links are in the description, and of course, I do really appreciate all of the support. So this is a Bounding Into Comics article. It says seemingly unable to help themselves from continuing to inject modern political topics into the once proud sci-fi franchise, the premiere of Alex Kurtzman's new Star Trek Strange New Worlds features protagonist Captain Pike declaring that the Capitol Hill riots of January 6th, 2021 were the first steps in humanity's march to nuclear war. It is very unfortunate, but this is the direction they've taken Star Trek in. There are so many people out there who have loved Star Trek over the years, who want it to be great again, and we all tried to give Strange New Worlds yet another chance, but it's very clear that they don't know what to do with this franchise anymore besides shove political topics into them. And unfortunately, not in a good way, they're dating the shows with every move they make. It says, premiering on May 5th, the self-titled debut episode opens with Starfleet prematurely recalling Christopher Pike from his downtime after they lost contact with his first officer, Una Chinriley, during a first contact mission to planet Kili 279 after the department detected signs of warp drive technology on its surface. Eventually, Pike and the crew of the USS Enterprise discovered that not only had Una been captured by the inhabitants of Kili 279 due to their suspicion of her team's objectives. Attempting to elaborate on Starfleet's interest in expanding membership to warp travel-capable planets, Pike learns from the Kili leaders that though they had in fact discovered the technology, they had weaponized it instead, utilizing its offensive capabilities to forcefully stamp out the numerous rebel factions that continue to oppose their united front. After this meeting, the Kili government calls for a ceasefire with the rebel factions, proposing a meeting to discuss what to make of Starfleet's arrival to their planet. Finding himself inspired by words shared, Pike moves to access Starfleet's historical records and travel to the planet, beaming himself directly into the middle of the proceedings. He introduces himself, he talks about his planet Earth, and how far away it is, and he says, "This is my world today." Pike begins opening his speech by showing the gathered leaders a montage of the Earth's current utopian state. But we're not always peaceful, he continues, flipping his imagery to shots of present-day Washington, D.C., New York City, San Francisco, and Paris. This is Earth in our 21st century, before everything went wrong. It's a lot like your world today. And of course, as we could imagine, this is what he goes on to say. Our conflict also started with a fight for freedoms. We called it the Second Civil War, playing actual news footage from not just the aforementioned riots, but the peaceful protests earlier in the day. Then the eugenics war, and finally just World War III, he tells them, again changing the visuals in his presentation, this time to footage of various nuclear eruptions occurring around planet Earth. This was our last day, the day the Earth we knew ceased to exist. What began as an eruption in one nation ended in the eradication of 600,000 species of animals and planets and 30% of Earth's population. Global suicide, he declared. What we gave you is the means to exterminate yourselves. Now, of course, this is rightfully infuriating people. Let's look at past Star Trek, like the original series movies, because they were subtly about the Cold War. They didn't slam the subject in your face, especially Star Trek VI. That was a vision of Gene Roddenberry hoping that the Cold War would come to an end by the Soviet Union and US, but he didn't direct it at anyone's specific politics. It was just about a philosophy that things could be better. In current day Star Trek, they're addressing the specific policies and politics of countries and politicians, and this isn't how Gene Roddenberry did it. It takes the escapism completely out of the show, and it's why people dislike Star Trek so much now. Those amazing previous movies and series were always done in a way that didn't date them, and they had a lesson behind them. But these writers don't know how to create shows and stories anymore. And unfortunately, similar things have happened. In the past, if we look at Star Trek Discovery, this was only from a couple of months ago, Star Trek Discovery makes Democrat Stacey Abrams president of United Earth as she campaigns for governor of Georgia. It's not like they took a legitimate actress and went for this storyline. No, they took a real person, a real Democrat who is running currently for the governor of Georgia, and people hated this as well. People were furious at this as well. It completely dates these shows, and it doesn't make them timeless like older Star Trek was. You would think after releasing so many shows, they would eventually say, people clearly do not like this direction, so we have to change it. We have to go back to the drawing board. We have to see what people really loved, what made Star Trek Star Trek. But they refuse to do that, and they've made series after series with this type of bullshit shoved into it. People watch shows and movies and consume entertainment in general for escapism, and having real politicians shoved in your face isn't what a lot of people want to see when they watch something like Star Trek. It dates it, it ruins it, it makes shows almost unwatchable for people. I mean, this was an article back from 2020. Star Trek Discovery posts abysmal ratings in first season's official CBS debut. Picard also launched to mediocre reception, and Strange New Worlds is getting raked across the coals now because of this whole January 6th reference. At the end of the day, do I think that they're going to stop doing this? No, I think that they have already committed to this direction for Star Trek, and it's very disappointing, but it's not the Star Trek I want to see, and it's not the Star Trek that many other people want to see, and they are losing out on viewers. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.